Did you get in any trouble with the law?
Never, and that's why I kept drinking. I had my bills paid. I had great credit. You know, I could go to work, and so I justified this. No, I'm not like those people because I got this under control, and I can pay for my own drinks, and I had an excellent credit score. You know, I'm driving a Beamer or whatever it was I was driving at the time, you know, nice things, and I was sporting good clothes and stuff. So I wasn't like those people. Well, I was every bit like those people. But
that's that, you know, we've talked about that with you, Casey, with lots of other people on the show that I think we just informally call it that addict brain, that addiction logic, where you were able to look at your successful areas of life and say, because I can manage these other areas of life, like you're mentioning finances and work and, you know, that sort of thing, then I'm above, you know, being considered an addict. I don't have a problem. And that sounds like that kept that cycle going year after year for you. Yeah.
Well, he met this woman, I guess. She was out of prison. Totally not what I would expect him. She was wild. She was exciting for him. Way different than me. Mm-hmm. In a different way. I mean, she'd have no problem running into the grocery store and selling him a case of beer, and they'd be running like Bonnie and Clyde, all this stuff. But anyway, one day he'd been calling me up when they'd fight, and he'd say, hey, can you come and get me? I got in a fight with this girl, and I need a place to stay, and I don't want her to find me. One day he'd been at my house on the weekend, and he said, will you, so-and-so wants to get a hold of you, wants you to call her. Will you not tell her that I'm here, that I came and I stayed over here this weekend? And I told him he was supposed to be staying with the kids that weekend. That it was a Wednesday, and it was his night, and he didn't want to, but I made him. And so at first I told him, I'm not going to cover for you. No way. But then anyway, I says, yeah, give me her number. So anyway, I called her up, and she had already been to my house. She called me a on the phone. She had come over one night, late at night, and I had been drinking, went out there, and I had her, and like I said, I was a mean drunk. So I went out there, and I was going to throw down. I was thrown down with her. I mean, another girl had to come in because I wasn't going to let go of this girl. I was just on her. And so she said, when she asked to talk to me, she says, I'm afraid of you. And I said, I won't put my hands on you. So anyway, there I was, went over to her house, case of beer, made sure she had her cigarettes, and we sat there and we talked. And she could tell me anything she wanted about him, and I was fine with it. And then she said, and I'm going to tell you something. This is what triggered me. She said, he didn't want to go stay with your kids tonight. And for some reason, when my kids were concerned, it triggered me. And I said, yeah. I said, let's go over there. Let's confront him. And let's see what's going on, because he always lied. Well, I went over there, and I told her, I want you to walk to the front of the dorm and pull up. I says, and you just entertain him. And I didn't tell her what I was doing. I ran straight to the garage because here I am, drunk again, mad, mean. I went and got a box cutter, and I went behind his truck. I got behind his truck, and I started sawing at the valve stem because I thought, he's not going to go. He's going to listen to me. And I'm not letting him go, so I started cutting that. Well, he came out, cutting that, and he came out. And he tells her, hey, what you doing here? And she's like, oh, nothing. And then he says, where's Evaun? I'm back there at the bottom of that truck, and that box cutter's not getting through. But I lift up my head, and I see him. Me and him make eye contact. But we make eye contact, and he goes around, and he's going to get me. He's coming for me. And just then I get up, and I've got that box cutter, but I kick the valve stem, and all you could hear is that tire go, psh! And then he comes after me, and I take off, and I run around the truck. And I go to the other tire, and I'm slashing the tire. Well, this went on. He was after me. I was after him. And at one point, I jumped in his truck. The girl got in between us, but I thought, I don't even know what I'm thinking, but I thought, I'm going to slice your jugular,
Whoa.
I was so mad at him for dogging out my kids. And I told him, you know what? You got the nerve. But anyway, I thought, I was so drunk, and that's what I was thinking in my mind. I closed my eyes, and I went to stab him, and I thought, the jugular. That's how crazy that alcohol did me. And the girl got in the way, and that's what saved his life. I stabbed her in the arm. Cops came. We went to jail. I went to jail. She got out right away because she'd been in prison all her life. She had to get out, or they were going to send her back to the big house. And he was in one cell. I was in the other. But I thought, you know what? It's time to change. You can't go on like this. And I swore I'd never speak to him again. It's over. I'm going home. It's over. I'm going to be a better mom. I'm going to be a better person. And I was okay. I walked out of that jail. They let me out. And I walked out, and I went home, and I hadn't drank. And he called me 2 weeks later. And I swore I wasn't going to take his calls, but he called me and he said, I want to come home. I said, come home. He came home. We started drinking again. I had sobered up at one point. We drank. My parents intervened. I had a family intervention. They asked me to stop. I had to stop. I was blacking out, drunk. I was mean. And I said, okay. I stopped for 2 years. And I noticed during the time we stopped, we weren't having fun anymore. The marriage wasn't fun. We couldn't laugh. And so little by little, he was drinking, kind of hiding it. And I just thought, you know what? I'm going to join him. That's when we laughed the hardest, is when we were drinking. And from there, it just took off once again. One night I took off. I had the sports car. I ran an ego. Everything was about my ego. I bought this sports car. And that sports car was bad. The best color on the road. It was fast. Man, I felt like stinking Danica Patrick in that car. And I was so deep into my drinking by this time, I couldn't stay at work the whole day when I went. And I left work. I couldn't stay at work. I was shaking so bad. And I went home and I started drinking again, drank. And I had left my car at the dealership. They were going to add some stuff to it, and they gave me a rental. Well, they called me up when I was home, and they said, your car's ready. And I got all ready, and I went for my car. And by this time, I had made contact with an ex-husband. That ended bad. That relationship was bad, but I made contact. And I had told him, hey, let's get together. Let's smoke some weed and party. And he's like, yeah, come on down. One thing led to another. Once again, blacked out again. But anyway, I was caught on video. I was on video. Well, I didn't make it home that night. I was on video doing things that a married woman does not do. Oh. So I made it home that night. Everybody, my whole family was looking for me. I finally made it home. I don't know what time. I can't tell you how I got there. Don't know anything. Didn't know how to operate this car because I didn't know where the gas tank was. Didn't know how to turn on the lights. Didn't know anything about this brand new car. And they're different because they're sports cars. They're just different. Everything about them's different. But anyway, when I got home, I woke up in the morning and my husband said, open your phone. I'm blacked out. I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know what I did. So I put my phone, and he went, and right on that phone, the video played. And he told me, get the F out. He said, get the F out, and you'll take nothing. And I said, I want my kids. And he says, you ain't taking these kids. And so he called my daughter, and my daughter said, we need to get you some help. And so I went, and they put me at a program up at Ogden Regional called the ACT program, and I stayed there overnight to sober up. And I went home the next day, and I knew, they told me, you need to join a program. And I joined the program, I think, mostly because I knew I was going to lose my marriage. And I went to that program. I was mad.
Wow. Before we get to this program, there's a couple of things that I've noticed when you're telling your story. And Dr. Matt, I don't know if you've noticed this too, but some of your story is said with pride. There's some certain things that you say, and then in the same sentence, I feel this raw emotion that you're hurt, and it goes back and forth. Did that mess with your psyche and your mind? Because it seems like at times you knew you were doing bad, but others, the addiction was just keeping you going. I guess you said you were running on ego. Did you notice that when she was telling her story?
Yeah, I'm just sitting here taking it all in. It's a very powerful story, and I think you're absolutely right, Casey, that that's my observation as well, is that you had this internal battle between
constantly
my pride and my ego, and I can have the fancy sports car, and I'm above all this addiction stuff, and then these terrible moments of realization where occasionally you're faced with the reality of what your behavior is doing, and then push it away, and the ego comes back in.
Exactly.
And
some of the stuff you said, I'm sitting here in my mind, and you say it just so matter of fact, like that it's like I was going to stab him in the jugular, and I'm going, holy cow!
Now you got to understand my mentality. The whole time I'm drinking, whether I have a beer in my hand or not, my mental state is not right. I can't now. I can think back, and I'm thinking, what was I thinking? What? But at that time, I was lodged in my head. Everything was falling into place. This was just made sense to me.
That's that addiction logic, right?
Out there. I was like tripping without the luggage.
How do you feel now when you look back and you realize that was you?
I can't even believe it. I cannot believe it.
And I am having a hard time believing it because as we chatted before the show today, you're such a soft, warm person to know that you had been in that place because of that addiction. Boy, it's like Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, right?
Every day was
it's like an episode of Law and Order.
Yeah.
It's funny because one day, like I said, I went to church. I mean, I had been grown up in church, but one day I'm in the shower and I know that my drinking's getting out of control. I mean, I put a beer on my counter, in my bathroom counter.
Oh, I've had a shower beer before.
10 o'clock in the morning. It's 10 o'clock. And I said, God, I know that you want me to be here because you know what? If not, you wouldn't have that beer out there for me. You want me to drink that beer. I was like telling God what was up. And I'd go out and pop that thing. And when you're ready, you're going to change me. No.
Putting it all on God, huh?
It wasn't mine. I was
God's your
just
bartender?
a victim. Yeah, no, it wasn't mine. If you wanted it, you got the power. You're God. Change me. It was just crazy. I'm telling you, my thinking was way off. Everything about it. There was nothing right about my thinking then. As a matter of fact, my thinking did not. That's not even part of it. I went into the program. I didn't belong there. I was convinced these people I'm not like these people. I drank beer and smoked a little weed. These people were in there for heroin and all that. I had good credit. These people didn't have credit. These people had been to jail. I went to jail for stabbing my husband, and we all went to jail that night. But I was like, no, these people are in and out of jail. You know, they're habitual offenders. I went one time. I justified everything I did. Why I didn't belong there.
Yeah.
So to reset the scene, you wake up, your ex-husband or your husband shows you a video of some things you did. He calls your daughter says you need help, and then you check into a rehab center where you're just going to spend 24 hours.
Sober up.
And after the 24 hours, where did you go from there?
Home.
And what did you do at home?
What did I do at home? I cried. I was sick. Reality hit. I have just destroyed the one person that I knew absolutely loved and adored me. I mean, there was nothing he wouldn't do for me. I lived a great life because of him. And I destroyed him. And so I knew I better go to a program. I better get some help. I was struggling getting some help. So I went to this program.
Let me ask you, did you go to the program because you think you needed help or because you thought it would fix the problems that you have? Does that make sense? I mean, I think a lot of times, and I've had people reach out on Facebook and go, my son needs rehab. And I go, look, I understand you think your son needs rehab, but it's only going to work if your son thinks he needs rehab.
Yeah.
You can't put what you think he needs on him because if he doesn't want it, I don't believe it's going to take.
Right.
And
a lot of times people go into a program for other people, or to get people off their back, or to be able to be employed, or to get their kids back, get back in the house that their spouse kicked them out of. There's a lot of reasons people go in, but I think that's why we have such a high, the term is recidivism, where you that revolving door with programs, because until a person kind of humbles themselves, so to speak, and realizes, I want this for me because I know I have a problem, and they kind of give that up and accept it, it's not really until then that most people can maintain sobriety.
But that's not to say people don't go into a rehab for one reason and stay for another.
That can develop, that insight and motivation can develop while you're in a program.
Yeah.
So I would never discourage somebody from going to a program for any of those external reasons. But I think you're right. Ultimately, true sobriety and being free from an addiction, there's an intrinsic or internal motivation has to be there.
So why did you want to go to rehab?
I wanted to fix the situation. I wanted him to see how remorseful I was. I was going to do this for him. Yeah, I had a drinking problem, but I wasn't like those people. Like I said, I just couldn't link myself to be like those people. And so I'd go at night. I'd go and every night I'd go spend so much time there. And
so it was an IOP.
Intensive outpatient.
You weren't in a facility for...
No.
Okay.
I got to go home and go back at night. And then I started going to different... I always went to the meetings, but I sat in the back where I could go closest to the door. Now, anybody tell me to do something, I'm going to do exactly opposite. At that time, I was smoking these little pins that you buy, and you can't smoke in those facilities. Well, I'd hide them. I think you can tell me what to do. I'm going to do what I want. I do what I want when I want. Everybody knows that. So I'd go and I'd take those pins and I'd be closest to the door. I'd go out and I'd be smoking in the bathroom, doing my thing or whatever. Just totally
so
not
that
getting
ego of yours was
just
still
ego running
the
back
show.
on. Just that ego had me.
You're listening to Project Recovery. Give us 30 seconds. We'll be back with Evaun.
So finally, as I kept going longer and longer, I started realizing, you know what, Evaun? You're every bit like these people. And so I, about a year ago, I was going off and on. Then I quit. I wouldn't talk to my sponsor. I was like, no, I don't want to talk to her. I don't want to tell nobody my business. I'm just going to keep this quiet. Hadn't drank. Stopped going to meetings. Just kept my mouth quiet. Okay. Then about a year ago, it's been over a year, but I'm going to say about a year, I started losing it mentally. I'd mentioned to Casey, I'd get up in the morning, I'd get up, and all I could do was barely breathe. I took very shallow breaths because I was in so much pain. I was in pain, my mental state. I kept going back to being caught. I kept going back to everything. Every day I'd call my family, my kids, I'm sorry. Every day they'd say, you're forgiven, Mom. No. And every day, but I lived in that. I call that being dry drunk.
Now, you use that term, and I've heard that thrown around in the recovery world, but for those who don't know, what is a dry drunk?
For me, dry drunk, I wasn't working my program. So I had that same mental state in my mind that I had, that demented thinking that I had the whole time I was using. It had come back. It had left for a while, but it come back last year. So I couldn't breathe. I mean, I wasn't functioning. I existed. I wasn't functioning. I'd go to work. I couldn't work there. Like I said, I think they really kept me because they really liked me. When I was working, I could throw out a good, I worked hard. I'm a hard worker. But
you were being plagued, it sounds like, by these memories
depression,
and feelings of all that you had done.
It.
Kind of that realization wouldn't go away. Is that what you're saying?
Could not leave it. I'd be sick every day. I'd be sick to my stomach. I'd throw up. I'd had migraines. I'd make myself sick. I felt so remorseful. I could not. Every day I wore pajamas. I'd go to work, get dressed in my dress clothes because I had a job that you had to dress professionally. Come home, get back in my pajamas, go to bed, or I'd sit in a rocking chair, and all I would do was sit there and wait for my husband to come home to rescue me.
And it has a powerful that psychological state of torment has a really powerful effect on a person. It can even create physical problems like you're talking about, shallow breathing, feelings of pain, distress, sleep disturbance.
Couldn't leave the house. Couldn't go get groceries. Couldn't do anything. I didn't do anything.
The telltale heart is Edgar Allan Poe. I mean, that's that power of how our mental state can affect how we feel.
But there's something that we should talk about, and I don't know exactly how to do it, but you know, when you're in your addiction and you go to these meetings and you talk to everybody, there's always this promise, okay, that life is going to get better. And they tell you life is going to get better. Mm-hmm. And trust me when I say it does get better, but better than, I mean, what sometimes people expect, it goes, I'm not drinking anymore. How come my life's not better? Well, it is better. You just don't see it. You've got to be able to look at it and notice that you're not hurting people in that. But it's not like all of a sudden you get sober and you get your job back or everything.
It's not magical.
Yeah.
And one of the principles of life that I wish wasn't true but is anything good in life, all the great things in life are a result of hard work.
Yep.
You know, if you have good relationships, if you have a good job, if you're healthy, all of those good things in life come from effort and hard work. And a lot of the times, and I'd be curious if this is your experience, but a lot of the time people start or continue to drink and smoke and do these things because that's how they're masking and treating problems in life, emotional
Band-aiding,
problems, relational
numbing.
And so when you get sober, now you have to find another way to deal with them. You have to find something that's more effective. And so sometimes when people stop their addiction and they get sober, then a lot of hard work that they didn't anticipate starts.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, how am I going to deal with my life now? How am I going to deal with the problems that I have in my finances, my family?
I've left
my
a wake of destruction
profession?
for the past 15 years,
Yeah.
and now it's all caught up.
Or sometimes it might even be things that never were resolved from years and years ago, and now they're back, and now I have to deal with them without the drug.
Feelings.
And
Yeah.
that's exactly, I couldn't go to the store. I mean, my husband, I was like a dead weight on him. He'd go to work, he'd come home. I didn't cook. I cleaned very minimal. I cleaned just the basics. Like I didn't clean deep clean like I was used to cleaning. I had my house clean every single day. Couldn't do that anymore. I sat in that chair and waited for him to come home to rescue me. And then
Did he?
every day, I'd go to my room and he'd feed me. He'd make my dinner. He'd feed me my dinner. He'd put away my plate. He'd bring my drinks. He'd bring my coffee. Anything I needed, he did. And then one day, it was just too much. And he said, I'm done.
And that's making you feel really emotional, isn't it? What did that mean to you when he did that?
I'd been married to him for 26 years, and he never asked me for a divorce.
After all the stuff you've been through.
Everything I put him through.
And you're sober now, and he's done.
He's done. He said, no more. I can't do this anymore.
Was there a fight left in you for the marriage?
Well, I'll tell you. He told me this like on a Wednesday. We were supposed to go shopping to Salt Lake on a Saturday. I mean, on a Friday. No, it was a Saturday. And I still was having a hard time being out in public without panicking. But when on our way there, I had asked him, I said, hey, the other day we never resolved anything. The other day you asked me for a divorce. And he seemed happy that day. And I said, did you mean it? And he looked at me and he said, have I ever asked you for a divorce before? And I looked at him like, are you kidding me? And I could see he wasn't kidding me. So for about 2 days, I cried really hard. I cried. And I stayed in bed for another week, about 7 more days. But on that 7th day, I don't know what happened. Oh, I called him up. I called him up before that 7th day, and I said, hey, Ron, is there anything I can do to change your mind? And he said, Evaun, you've told me this time and time again, and nothing gets better. He says, I don't think so. So the next day, that was my 7th day, I woke up, and I don't even know if I'd been to sleep, but I thought, you know what, girl? It's time to get going. Get your big girl shorts on and let's get this game moving. You're out of here. He wants to sell the house. Get going. You can't sit there. He ain't going to take care of you. You don't have anyone to take care of you. You've got to do this. You got to get going. And the minute I started getting going and I started getting things done, I started getting clearer and clearer. I started going back to meetings. I started doing this. I started doing that. I got back into my program. But he came to me and he said, hey, do you think maybe we could work on it? And I said, no. He came to me about 4 times, and I said, no.
So he saw you kind of get energized, and he saw you get really sober, not just dry drunk, but you actually started going to meetings of your own accord and wanting that sobriety, and then
I started changing.
Sounds like he saw life in you.
That's what he said. That's all I wanted. All I wanted is you just start living. But
so why did you say no?
Because I knew I was sick. And I knew that I had to bring the best version of myself to attract the best version of anybody else. Even now, I've been on my own all this time. I don't date. It's not because I'm not, I'm told I'm not ugly.
No, you're very attractive.
Okay? I don't date because why am I going to draw? I believe in drawing likeness, the same
energy.
Why am I going to draw somebody who's as messed up as me? Mm-hmm. When I want the best part of me for the best part of them.
Mm-hmm. Do you think your husband or ex-husband was not a good guy?
Absolutely not. I never thought that for 1 minute. I could never honestly say that man was not a good man. That man is an incredible man. That man's taught me so much.
Do you think he deserved someone better than you, or do you think he deserves the best you?
I think that man deserves the best version of, I would hope me, but if not, somebody.
Sometimes two people are just not always the very best fit for each other. And that can change over time. You're with him a very long time. There's a lot of ups and downs in who we become over 26 years. It's not always that one person is a bad person, the other one's good, or something like that, or they're both bad. But sometimes the fit just doesn't work, and we don't bring the best out in each other. And, maybe you, at this time in your life, really need to be feeling independent so that you can continue to develop the very best version of who you are. Would you say that's kind of, am I in the ballpark there?
What I think right now is that I want to, for myself, because I deserve it, I want to be 100% healthy. I've never been one to be, I've never gone from man to man. I've never been in and out of sack, whatever these girls do. I see it all the time in the program. They go from one man to the other. That's not who I am. If I get something, I want to work for it. I want to say I worked for that. Yeah. I don't lean on that. And I'm okay. I'm okay being alone. Being lonely isn't a good feeling, but being alone is okay. I'm good with that.
Yeah.
Okay? But I want to be healthy. And that's my goal. I just want to be healthy. Just get my head straight for the first time in all these years, because looking back, I had some traumatic experiences. I lost a child. That messed with my mind. I lost a marriage. I went through abuse, physical. I've been molested. I mean, all this stuff. Your mind's not straight. You don't get help. It's like I didn't seek the help that I needed, or I didn't seek it long enough. Like I do it for a little while just to kind of get that pain to go away.
Well, that's part of you want to be ready as soon as you can, but it's not until a person is really ready that the help that's available means as much as it can. It's not as helpful. And I know you're doing some things right now. You said, I want to be healthy. I want to be the best me that I can be. So talk a little bit about what you're doing. It sounds like you're giving back, working with women, and you've also done a few other things. What are you doing right now to be healthy?
Well,
When was your last drink?
My last drink was October 18th of 2016.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
That's a big accomplishment, yeah.
I'll tell you what I'm doing now. I volunteer. I do a lot of volunteering. I volunteer with women in crisis. Mm-hmm. And so I go help them. I'm a sponsor. I have gals that I sponsor in the program.
So you're working a 12-step program.
I work a 12-step program. But I don't I'm not addicted to my 12-step program. Like some people, that's what they live for. They have to go to every single, I don't let myself fall into any kind of addiction anymore.
It sounds like you, because of how, I would say you had an oppositional streak, what you call the ego. That oppositional streak was, don't tell me what to do, don't tell me what to do. But once you decided to do it for yourself, it sounds like you're making things work for you, for your own personal goals. And I'm assuming that includes your 12-step program. You're using it to help you, and you're giving back with your volunteerism. And being a sponsor, we haven't done a whole lot of talk about what it's like to be a sponsor. Maybe we can do a show with someone on that sometime, because what I know about people that are sponsoring, that's a lot of work, isn't it? But it's
a lot of babysitting.
A lot of babysitting, a lot of support, a lot of mentoring, and so it sounds like you're pretty active with those sorts of giving back activities.
Yes. Another thing that I'm very active in is my relationship with my higher power, who I call God. Let me give you an example of what he's done just really quick in my life. I had that sports car. I couldn't let go. My husband told me, when you sell that sports car, I want half the equity. It was paid in full, and he helped me pay that. And I thought, yeah, right. I don't think so. That's my car. So anyway, I didn't let it go. I hung on to that car. I didn't drive it all winter long because I didn't want the snow on it, but I'd go out there and I'd dust it down. And then when it rained, I wouldn't take it out because I didn't want the rain on it. So I'd go out into my garage and I'd dust it down. And then when I didn't take it on the freeway because I didn't want rocks to hit the paint job. It was so bomb. I didn't want rocks to hit it, but I'd go out there and I'd dust it down. Then finally one day I was over there and I'm renting storage for this room, this garage. But I says, you know what, Lord? You got me. You're taking care of me, and I'm gonna put this. If you want this car to sell, you're gonna sell this car. It's not because I want it to sell, because I'll hang on to it. I put it on a KSL. I got a call in 10 minutes. This lady said, I'm coming down with a check. She offered me full price for this car.
Wow.
Okay, I got that check, and I didn't want to let the car go. But I says, God, this is you. This is what you want, and I'm going to do it. So I did it. I got that check, and I looked at that check, and I thought, Ron doesn't need to know that I got this check. He doesn't even know. He could think I have this car in storage. And then I listened to my good friend here, Casey, say a million times, you're running an honest program. He's running an honest program. He came to me, Evaun, you said you're running an honest program. I took a picture of that. I thought, okay, God, this is what I'm going to do. I'll tell him I sold the car, but I won't tell him how much. I can undercut it and keep that money. And then all of a sudden he spoke to me again. He says, where's your honest program? I immediately flashed a picture of that, took a picture of it and flashed it to him. And I said, I sold the car. Where can I put your money? Well, I'm going to tell you what happened. What happened when I did that? I gave him his money. I started having money come to me. I had opportunities. I had doors opening, things that were just flipping my head around. And then I kept hearing, you ran an honest program. But I do that every single day. I wake up and I thank God. I meditate. Thank God. Thank you, God. You got me. I had, when I left my home, this big, giant home, beautiful home that was bought for me, I had 3 bedrooms. And I'm not talking just the closets. I mean the whole entire rooms that were made into closets. 3. Jewelry, rings. I had anything I wanted, clothes. I moved into this 3-bedroom apartment. And I told myself, you know what? Simple. I'm going to keep it simple. I'm getting rid of it. I was able to part with all this stuff. I live minimal means, and I'm going to tell you what, there's nothing. I don't feel like I am tied to anything. That stuff was just stuff. When I leave here, that stuff is going to make me. It isn't going to break me. You know what I mean? It doesn't matter how many Gucci bags I have today. I don't care. Take them all. Have them. Take them. It doesn't matter. You know what matters right now is that I get myself to be at 100%, that I'm the best version of me so that I can offer myself, the best version of myself, to anybody I come in contact with, because I want to run an honest program.
Wow. That's amazing.
I got chills.
Yeah. And you know, that thank you so much for sharing your whole story, but especially that final version of where you're at today, and how being honest and being your sometimes we call it your authentic self. Being your authentic self puts good things out there, and good things come back to you, doesn't it?
You know, when you're putting your hand out there to give, when your hand's out there and it's open to give, it's also out there to receive. And I found that.
Yeah, that's great.
As hard as it's been, but I'll tell you the blessings. And if you believe in it, you got to believe. That's the first thing. Believe it's going to come to you. You deserve it. Mark my word. Because, you know, I never thought I deserved anything. I thought I didn't deserve anything. When my alcohol, it was, you know, my sobriety date, at that point, I didn't feel like I deserved anything. I was grateful to take like I said, I could barely accept that little breath that I would take every day, just them shallow little breaths, because I wasn't even deserving of a whole breath. Today, I'm telling you what, I'm every bit as deserving as anybody else in this world.
That's powerful.
Yes, you are. And it's been an honor and a pleasure to hear your story and to share it with our listeners. Thank you very much.
Thank you for
from
having
the bottom
me.
of my heart, and thanks for running an honest program.
Thank you.
That is such a great manifestation of that statement.
Yep, I appreciate it. And if you know somebody who needs help, do what I did and give Pinnacle Recovery a call and run an honest program. This is a KSL podcast, Project Recovery.